Crimping is a relatively new tool to the food plot industry. It's been used in the ag industry for many, many more years. But the question is, when to crimp? Crimping is based on crushing the circulatory system of a plant when it's at its weakest moment. Clearly just crushing the circulatory system doesn't kill a lot of plants. Think about mowing your yard. Grass and other weeds continue to grow after you mow. So that not only crushed the circulatory system, it cut it off. It totally severed it. Crimping is designed to work when that plant is close to being mature on annuals. Crimping doesn't work on perennials, on annuals. Think about stuff that's going to grow, make seed, and die, not regrow again. Those are perennials. We're talking annuals. Crimping works when that plant is somewhat stressed, and plants become very stressed when they're making seed. They're transferring all those nutrients out of roots and stems and leaves in some plants up into that seed. So when the seed is fully formed, got a lot of moisture in it, but not hard yet, or not viable. And it's often you pop something bigger like a wheat seed or cereal rice seed, it actually kind of pops and a little moisture blows out of it. It's just like popping a little mini water balloon, if you will. When that seed is in the dough stage, it's fully formed, it's kind of doughy on the inside. It's not hard like seed that you got in your seed drill getting ready to plant. That's when crimping is most effective. If you crimp early, it's like driving through your yard. Maybe you haven't mowed your yard in a couple of weeks and you drive through there and your wife's embarrassed because you can see the tire tracks and you tell her, don't worry about it. In a couple of days, you won't even be able to tell where I drove because those plants stand back up. The weight of a heavy pickup driving on plants that are not in the dough stage, or a farmer applying herbicide or something in his crop field, and you can see the tracks right after they drove a tractor through there. A few days later, you drive by there, you can't even tell where the tractor was. Or mowing hay. Those are examples of what's not terminating a crop. Crimpers work by having big fins on there. They're usually a 1/4 inch wide or a 1/2 inch wide. And when that tall plant, annual plant, is making seed in the dough stage, and the seed is matured to the dough stage, it's really stressed, and it crushes that circulatory system about every 8 inches or so, the plants won't recover, and that mulch stays on the ground. The new seeds you planted, if you use the no-till drill, we like to drill before we crimp, that's called planting green, will come right up through there. But weed seeds a little deeper, and often weed seeds are very small. You've probably never seen a ragweed seed. They don't have enough energy to get up through that 4, 5, 6 inches of mulch, make leaves and photosynthesize. That's the magic of crimping. The seeds you plant are almost always bigger than weed seeds. You don't see weed seeds the size of corn or milo or something like that. Those seeds have a lot of energy. They come up through the mulch, but the mulch suppresses weeds. That's why crimping is great weed control as well as improving the soil's health. But some people think crimping is going to control weeds before you plant. And if those are not annual weeds, or those weeds are not in the dough stage, they're going to stand back up just like they do in your yard after you mow or drive through it. There's some signs besides just checking the seed to make sure they're fully formed and got moisture in there. You're going to see pollen. Often when we crimp, we usually have cereal rye in our blends. We're going to crimp in the spring. The pollen will be so thick, you may have to wash off the radiator in your tractor. You'll see pollen. You may see what's big things sticking out of wheat or cereal rye. Those are called anthers or stamen, depending on what you're looking at. That's typically before it's time. You want that seed to really swell up. Those are precursors, if you will. You want to see all that pollen in the air. You want to really know that that seed is getting ready to pollinate, but it's not viable yet. If you've waited so late that the plant is turning yellow, you've waited late and there may be some viable seed, and when you crimp over it, you're just planting that seed and it's going to compete with the next crop you go. So here in Missouri, we're usually crimping the 1st or 2nd week of May. We're in southern Missouri. If you're way northern Missouri, it may be a little later. If you're south, it's going to be earlier. You think about the wheat harvest going from Texas up north Crimping is kind of the same thing, but at a different time of year. So you're looking for signs the field is still green, you're seeing pollen, those seed heads look fully formed, but they're really green still. If you're looking at wheat, you know, you're looking at 30, 40, 50, 60 kernels on that wheat stalk, and they're rounded out, but they're not hard yet. When you pinch them, moisture will come out. That's what you're looking for. And the time of the year, you're gonna be later than someone that's planting after disking. They're gonna kill everything, disc the soil all up. They're gonna plant earlier, but when they disc, they lose all the soil moisture. One of the beauties of crimping is with that mulch, just like mulching your garden or flower bed, it holds moisture in and keeps weeds at bay. That is the beauty of using a crimper. It's so much better for the soil's health, and it preserves soil moisture. But to make this work, again, you've got to wait till those seeds are in the dough stage to get an effective kill. I've got some pictures somewhere where I crimped through a stand that had a bunch of crimson clover in it. The clover had flowered, but even those clover seeds, they weren't in the dough stage yet. They're just little bitty spots in there. And about 2 days later, that clover started standing back up. It looked like a sea of crimson clover heads out there. You've got to wait till the highest percentage of the crop, the largest biomass or tonnage per acre, if you will, of the crop in your blend, or if it's a monoculture, is in the dough stage, and the weight of that biggest crop will hold most everything else down. I'm planting a blend and seal rye, and the blends I plant is going to be one of the last things to get into the dough stage. It works out perfect. That's one of the beauties of that blend from Green Cover. And so I can plant right through there, probably in the early pollen stage. When I'm seeing those long anthers come out of seed heads, I can drill through there. I'm gonna wait 2-3 weeks. It's gonna take a week or so for those seeds to germinate. Then I let them get a couple inches tall, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, you're gonna kill them. Remember, those young pliable plants, they're not killed by crimping. They just stand right back up. I don't want them being a foot tall because the weight of the tractor might kill some of those young annual plants. It won't kill a permanent grass like fescue, but a young annual plant you could damage. But when they're just coming out of the ground, up to when they're making that first full set of leaves, they stand right back up. So I can plant almost 2 weeks before I crimp. And I'm looking for the first signs of pollination in that seal rye. I'm gonna drill right through there, and then I'm gonna let that seed head go ahead and get in the dough stage, and then I'm gonna crimp, and I'm done for the summer.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Also by Green Cover Food Plots, Winchester, PH Outdoors, Black Widow Bows, Moultrie Mobile, Steel, Fleet Outdoor Apparel, Morel Targets, Fourth Arrow, Soil Pro Outdoors, Scorpion Venom Archery, Case IH Tractors, Burris Optics, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
Crimping is a big part of the release process, or in the ag world, production ag world, regenerative ag. It allows us to not use or use very little herbicide. I haven't used fertilizer in years. I'm adding microbes, less expensive, more effective, and not toxic to the soil. All these wonderful benefits. But if you're just starting and you've got a bunch of bad weeds, maybe you're still fighting Johnson grass, that's a perennial, and crimping's not going to kill it, you may have to use another coat of herbicide to kind of reset everything to ground zero. Seeds are a lot less expensive than fertilizer or herbicide. So I'm usually planting 20-30% more seed per acre than what's recommended. Even more if I've got a small food plot that I know is going to be a lot of browse pressure in there. I want to make sure some stems make it, so I've got plenty of feed and enough biomass to crimp. Crimping is a wonderful tool, but like all tools, it's got a specific mission. If you're not quite there yet, you may need to use a little bit of herbicide to get you through this year, plant really thick, and be ready to crimp at the next crop. I haven't sold my sprayer, but it hasn't been used in quite some time. It's all cleaned up, drained out, antifreeze put in there, RV antifreeze, so nothing will freeze during the winter. And if I have a failure or a drought or some reason I don't have anything to crimp, I can hook that sprayer up, and get back in the game without letting weeds get ahead of me. Once you're a rotation or two into the release process, you're planting a really good blend. Blends are really important over a monoculture. Then you can do what I do. Clean that sprayer up, park it to the side, and just have it in the ready in case you need it. The release process is really just reflecting the natural process of when the bison roamed the Great Prairie and they'd trample everything down and new growth would come. Those natural processes, of course, were put in place by the Creator when the environment was perfect, and over time we've altered it and messed things up. That kind of happens with our life. We can stray from the Creator's will for our life and things don't go too well. And I encourage each of y'all to return, seek the Creator's will for your life and apply it daily. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.